Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Saba braised lamb shanks. That's right, if you're looking for a foolproof, wintry braised meat dish, this one is virtually impossible to screw up. And as if that wasn't enough, I'm also going to show you a great product called Saba, which I'm betting many of you have never used or even heard of before. But we'll get into that in a minute. Step one here, we're going to prep our lamb shanks. And as you can see, I have 4 of them. And in case you're wondering, that is the ankle bone, which is attached to the foot bone, and on the other end attached to the leg bone. I always enjoyed that song. But anyway, you're going to need 4 lamb shanks, and to those we're going to apply a little bit of a wet rub. So I'm going to drizzle over some oil, olive oil to be exact, along with a whole bunch of salt, some freshly ground black pepper, and then a little bit of smoked paprika. Oh yeah, the bacon of ground spices. Sure, you can use regular paprika, but I really like that little bit of smokiness here. We're also going to give it a little dusting of cinnamon, not too much, but a little bit really brings out the sweetness in that lamb. And then last but not least, some dry rosemary. Oh, don't worry, we're going to use some fresh later. But for the roasting and braising stage, I like the dry. And then we're going to go ahead and take our tongs and mix that thoroughly. Now, please, use your hands. The only reason I use tongs is because I didn't want to get my camera dirty, and it took like 45 minutes to mix this, which stopped being fun after like 5 minutes. So anyway, use your hands, mix it really well. And when those are coated, just set those aside until we prep our roasting pan, which is so easy. So what you want to use here is a roasting pan that's very heavy duty, and it should also be just deep enough and just wide enough to fit the shanks. And you'll see what I mean in a second here when I put them in. But to prep that, we're going to do a bed of onions, along with a few cloves of crushed garlic. Oh, and by the way, bed of onions is actually the second least comfortable bed in history, only behind every futon ever made. But anyway, we're going to lay down some sliced onions and garlic, and then we're going to put our shanks over the top. And at first I thought they were going to go in this direction, and then I was like, that's not going to work. So I flipped them the other way, and as you can see, they fit much better. And that's basically what you're trying to go for when you're choosing a pan. You want the pan just wide enough for them to fit and have just about the same depth as the lamb shank itself. All right, and then once we have that situated properly, we're going to go ahead and put those in a very hot 450-degree oven for 30 minutes uncovered to give them a nice browning, a nice sear in the oven. And after 30 minutes, they should look something like this, which already looks pretty good, and we're not even close to being done yet. So we're going to pull that out, leave that on the stove while we make our braising liquid, which is 2 ingredients. First of which being chicken broth or chicken stock. Can you use lamb stock? Of course, but you don't have any. So use chicken stock. And then to that, the star of the show, Saba, which is described here as a dressing cooked grape musk. So this is basically a sweet syrup they make with all the remnants of the wine-making process. All the grape skins, stems, seeds. So they use all those leftover scraps to make what's basically similar to an aged balsamic vinegar. Just an absolutely delicious product. And we're going to add a big splash of that to our chicken broth. We'll give it a mix, and then we'll simply pour that over our browned lamb shanks. And then what we're going to do for the second phase of this cooking is we're going to cover that with foil, lower our oven down to 200, and let it braise in the oven until it's tender. So we're going to cover that in foil, and because I went to culinary school and was brainwashed, I'm going to put a little piece of parchment on top first, totally optional. You can just put foil on, it's fine. So we're going to wrap that tightly and carefully. And you notice I have that on a baking sheet, which I like for spills and splashes. And my hands are asbestos, so be careful when you do this. Maybe use a towel, but you want a really nice tight seal. And then we're going to pop that back in covered into what's now a 200-degree oven. And we're going to roast that for about 2.5 or 3 hours, or until a knife goes in fairly easily. So we're going to pull that out, we're going to unwrap it to test, and you can see right there our paring knife goes in fairly easily. Although please note, the meat is not falling off the bone. All right, that would be overcooked if it just falls off with the slightest pressure. But that knife should go in fairly easily. And at this point, we are ready for the third and final phase of roasting. We're going to give these a toss in the sauce. And right there, see that splash? That's why I like the baking sheet underneath. But anyway, we're going to give those a toss in the sauce. And then we're going to put our oven on to 350. And we're going to put those shanks back in uncovered until a few things happen. One, the lamb's going to finish cooking all the way until perfectly fork tender. Secondly, because we're cooking this uncovered, that sauce is going to kind of caramelize onto the surface. So what I'll do is I'll pop them in for 10 or 15 minutes, take them out, give them one last turn, pop them back in for 10 or 15 minutes, and at that point they should be done, but only you know. If they're still not fork tender, continue cooking. The only way to screw this up is to undercook. Do not undercook. And this is what mine looked like after another 20 minutes or so of cooking uncovered at 350. Like you saw, I gave them one turn during that final glazing process, and at this point I've determined they're perfect. So I'm going to remove the shanks to a bowl to keep warm. I'm going to strain that liquid into a saucepan, And you really could serve it just like that, but I'm going to boil mine for about 5 minutes to reduce it a little bit. You know we do that a lot. It's going to get just a hair thicker. And I've already said it, but of course it's going to keep continuing to reduce and intensify in flavor. And of course, anytime we're reducing a sauce, especially one made from roasted meat, you're going to be able to skim a little bit of fat off the top, which I did here. So feel free to defatify at your leisure. And when it gets down to where you like, you're going to do one final adjustment with the salts. And at that point, you can turn off the heat. And if you want, you can stir in a little bit of freshly chopped rosemary, which I think is going to be the perfect finishing touch for this sauce. And at that point, you are ready to serve. I served mine on some nice potato puree with an undressed arugula salad. That's just a prop. I know I'm not fooling anybody. We're going to spoon over that amazing sauce. And that is just a thing of beauty. Or at least it would be if you could see it. I'm totally blocking the light. So let's switch camera angles. That's much better. And right there you can see just how gorgeous and sticky and succulent that meat is. And yes, as much as I enjoyed that succulent stick-to-your-ribs meat, what really blew my mind is just how amazing that sauce is. So incredibly simple, no thickeners, no roux, no nothing. Just 100% pure natural goodness. So go find some Saba. It's at that fancy gourmet cheese shop probably. Or you can find it very easily online. And give these amazing braised lamb shanks a try soon. So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.